Welcome back, everybody. Today on 5 Killer Riffs, we're going to have a look at 5 killer riffs from one of my favorite albums, Whitesnake's self-titled 1987 album. I first heard Whitesnake on a compilation album that I bought. Funnily enough, I also heard some of my other favorite bands like Sabotage and Queensryche on this same compilation. It was pretty great. It was a song, Still of the Night, and I never really heard anything like this. You guys know, if you've been following the channel, that I love John Sykes, but it was really this song that kind of first turned me on to his whole style of playing. I didn't realize as well that it was the same guy that played on Thin Lizzy's Thunder and Lightning album until years later. I just fell in love with that song and went and got the album, and it just kind of blew me away. Everything that I like about that whole era of music is like distilled onto this one album. So let's start with Still of the Night. A lot of people accuse this of being a Led Zeppelin ripoff, and well, they do kind of have a point, but it is just such a big, thick, swaggering piece of hard rock. I've kind of distilled a couple of the different riffs into a short little arrangement. This isn't how the original song goes. What's interesting as well, someone pointed out to me a little while ago that this song's kind of in sonata form. You have like the, really bluesy part at the start and the big right out at the end, and you've got the kind of really, emotional 80s ballad section in the middle. There's one riff in there that I didn't feature in this. I really, really like that riff, but aside from that, this is a quick little version that I slapped together featuring some of my favorite riffs from Still of the Night. In contrast to that song, which is this kind of big, stomping, Zeppelin-inspired song, I really, really like the song Give Me All Your Love Tonight. It's just fun. It kind of sounds like ZZ Top on steroids or ZZ Top on cocaine and Aquanet. It's just this kind of shuffle thing in A minor. And classic 80s riffage, you got all these little dyads, you've got the A minor to F thing baked in there. It's just a lot of fun, and this is what it sounds like with just guitar, bass, and drums. The hardest thing about recording that was actually playing the bass fingerstyle. I can't play bass fingerstyle to save my life, but I believe it's Neil Murray on that album. And so much of that album is kind of made great by his really nice thumping bass lines in there. Such a great bass player and such an overlooked part of that entire album. All right, there was 2 songs on that album that were recycled from previous Whitesnake albums. Obviously, Here I Go Again, which was a mega hit, kind of made the whole album globally. But there was Crying in the Rain, which is just one of the meanest, sassiest riffs of all time. You've got this kind of, thing in E, and you've got the little descending like flat 7, 6, flat 6 thing going on, if you know what I'm talking about with the intervals. Basically this. Just big, fat, wide vibrato, lots of pinched harmonics. A lot of people credit Zakk Wylde for being the original abuser of pinched harmonics, but I think John beat him to the punch by a couple of years there. So this is Crying in the Rain. Coming up next is probably my favorite Whitesnake riff of all time. It's a riff from Bad Boys, and this is the one that really influenced me the most as a riff writer and as a songwriter. And, there's just so many cool chords. You got the classic, which could be like a souped-up AC/DC or Queen song, but then you've got this big, I call this chord C Lydian. Essentially, it's C major plus the sharp 11 plus the 9. It would look like this. You've got fret 3 on the A string, fret 4 on the D string, the open G, 3rd fret of the B string, and the open E. And John also used that particular chord on a lot of the ballads, like Is This Love and Looking for Love on that album. I've also heard that chord on a lot of Queensryche songs as well, and that was one that I learnt from this song and I subsequently stole and use all the time. If you go and have a listen to the Ragdoll song Ashamed, if you go and have a listen to the Ragdoll song Could It Be Love, they're just great ballad chords, but the way he puts this all together, and there's a lot of his kind of double picking style later in the song with this. Which he uses a lot, and it's actually quite hard to do. It's a really good thing to practice when you're playing riffs. So this is my favorite Whitesnake riff, Bad Boys. To round things out, I think a super underrated song on this album, You're Gonna Break My Heart Again. It's really interesting because it's in drop D. And then there's a section with John's awesome double picking in there, which I really struggle to play. But this is the one that I went and learnt years after I had first experienced this album. I always overlooked it, and myself and a bunch of my friends did a tribute night where we played all the 1987 album live, and this was the last song that I learned. I left it till last, and I was like, my God, this is so awesome. It's basically reminds me so much of if I had to write a Whitesnake song. If you've listened to any of the Ragdoll stuff, you know that we do a lot of stuff in drop C, but then there's a lot of these kind of 80s elements. Like if you take a song like Letting Go, or Shine, oh, my guitar's going out of tune. Play authentic, ladies and gentlemen. Nevertheless, this one, it was kind of really funny coming all the way back around because I've ripped off so many Whitesnake songs in my riff writing. Coming back and learning this one and being like, Yeah, I probably just should have learnt this one because this one rolls all of my favorite elements into one, and it's definitely a riff that I wish I wrote. This is You're Gonna Break My Heart Again. Thanks so much for tuning in, guys. I really hope you enjoyed the examples here. I really want to do a 5 killer riffs Whitesnake, like just a general one at some point. So if there's riffs you would like me to include, please let me know in the comments. I got a bunch of comments on the last video I did like this where people were saying I was talking too much. But as always, I really like to put all of these things into context and talk about how they inspired me and how they continue to influence me so that hopefully they can inspire you and influence you, and you can kind of learn them and analyze them and take out your favorite parts and use them to not only become a better player, but use them to kind of bounce off and create your own style. That is always the point of these kind of videos. For me, anyway. And shameless plug, if you like Whitesnake, go and check out my band Ragdoll. I think you'll really, really dig it. Of course, I always mention this in all my videos. You can check the video description if you want to have a listen to that stuff. Thanks for tuning in. I'll see you guys next time. I'm just going to put this right here as well because I know some of you are dying to have these questions answered. I put the tape on the headstock because it's funny. It's a meme. And yes, the pickup selector is upside down. Finally, I know. I probably play all of these songs wrong, but I learnt them by ear years ago. They're just kind of baked in. It's all about having fun anyway, so sometimes when you're trying to learn a riff, you might learn it so wrong that you write your own riff, and that's a beautiful thing as well. Take care, guys.